All right, that looks like everyone is in. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Darren. I am one of the marketing coordinators with BCIT School of Health Sciences. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this online information session for the Diagnostic Medical Sonography program. I want to say how happy we are to see you all and thank you for attending our presentation today. Feel free to post any questions you have into the Q&A window, not the chat window, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can later in the Q&A segment. I just want to say, please keep your microphone and video turned off just until the end of the presentation to reduce connectivity issues and interruptions, and we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. I would like to mention that the British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. And what a beautiful land that is. Our agenda for today is welcome and introductions. We'll do a quick poll, just one question about the program. We'll do presentations and program overviews. We'll have some information about program advising. And then at the end, we'll do the Q&A. But feel free to put any questions you have into the Q&A window as we go along, and they'll be in the queue to be answered. And now I would like to introduce Heather Burke and Ken Markin, the program heads for the Diagnostic Medical Sonography program, to take us through the main part of the presentation. Take it away.
Thank you, Darren. So my name's Ken Markin. I'm one of the program heads in sonography, and I'll be speaking first, and then my colleague Heather will be speaking next. If you could advance the slide for me there. Perfect. So a little bit about diagnostic medical sonography. So as you probably are aware, ultrasound or diagnostic medical sonography uses high frequency sound waves in order to look at any soft tissue structure inside the body. We could look at the abdominal organs such as the liver and gallbladder. Perhaps we could even see gallstones. Or we can look at the female pelvis. We can look at the ovaries, the uterus, and if a patient is pregnant, we can actually look at the developing fetus and make all kinds of assessments looking at the fetal brain, the heart, and all the limbs. The other areas that we can look at are things like the carotid arteries that supply the brain with blood. So we can look at those arteries to see if there's any stenosis or narrowing. We can even look at the leg veins inside your body to look for any blood clot. And we can also look at other soft tissue structures. Because ultrasound is safe to use, it's non-ionizing, meaning there's no radiation. So we can actually assess the scrotum, looking at the testicles, for example, or even the breast. We can look for cysts or solid masses within the breast to see if there's something that's benign or perhaps something malignant. So ultrasound is really one of those tests where it's very useful and it helps clinicians to achieve a diagnosis. So a little bit about ultrasound is that it is a diagnostic field so that we work collaboratively with other imaging modalities like medical radiography, nuclear medicine, magnetic resonance imaging or MRI, as well as CT scanning or computed tomography. And we can assess the anatomy as well as the function of organs. In particular, we can look at the heart. With cardiac sonography, we can assess how the heart is beating, we can check the valves, and we can also ensure that the heart is pumping strong and sending blood to the rest of the body. And if you're interested in sonography, we certainly incorporate all these different types of courses, such as anatomy and physiology. We learn about hemodynamics, blood flow, and cardiac function, as well as applied physics. Now, we are frontline workers, so we are involved with direct patient care, and certainly we work collaboratively and interprofessionally with other modalities, and we work alongside physicians, specifically cardiologists and radiologists. And we are employable in public hospitals or in private clinics here in British Columbia. So with regard to our diploma program, we have two options that are currently available. We have our 27-month dual program in which a cohort of 24 students would learn about cardiac and general sonography. And we also have our general options stream, which includes 12 students, and it takes 22 months for them to learn about general sonography principles. Now, the nice thing about the sonography program is that we are cohort-based, so that the students take a common first year and then stream into their specialties within the second year. Not only do we have the didactic portion, which is over 3 terms on campus, but we also have clinical training as well. We also have something called the Cardiac Advanced Diploma program, which is a 12-month specialty program in which you can train in cardiac sonography. But this program is an advanced diploma and requires a health diploma or Bachelor of Science before you can enter. And more about that in just a little bit. So the great thing about BCIT is we provide hands-on learning. So during your training, you're not just in classes, but we have a blended learning environment where you actually participate in our scan labs. And so as a student, you would scan other students in the cohort and get to learn about anatomy and physiology with hands-on practice. And of course, we carry that forward when you go into clinical. So at BCIT, through terms 1 through 3, you're learning and applying your foundational knowledge in our theory classes and in our labs. We have a short clinical between first and second year, and then you return to campus for the fall in level 3, and then eventually, after that 15-week term is finished, you have your final clinical year, where either term 4 and 5 are clinical rotations where you'll be in different lower mainland hospitals or clinics. And often our students will be required to spend at least one clinical rotation outside the lower mainland. That may be in interior health or on Vancouver Island. We do have our Cardiac Advanced Diploma, and this is specific for 12 students. And I'm going to pass this over to my colleague, Heather Burke, and she'll tell you a little bit more about her program and some exciting changes that are upcoming.
Thank you, Ken. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Burke. So I'll talk about the Cardiac Advanced Diploma. So it is only 12 months long, which is very nice, but it does have different prerequisites. So you have to have a diploma first. I think that's on a slide coming up. But the nice thing is it's short. So it's terms 1 and 2 are full-time on campus. So similar to our diploma program, you're in theory classes and labs full-time. And then you start your clinical rotation in June, and you'll be in clinical from June until December, and then you'll graduate within the year. Similar to our diploma program, you will have 1 clinical rotation outside of the lower mainland. And again, that's just because we don't have enough clinical spots in the lower mainland. And you'll rotate through several sites, so usually 3 or 4 different hospitals during your clinical training. Now, important to note, it is the Cardiac Advanced Diploma, meaning you'll only be certified as a cardiac sonographer. The pay is the same. The job is very similar. You're working in the same department. It's just you're doing a different organ. So it just depends on what you want to do, what your interest lies in. So the prereqs for this program, we just changed them yesterday. So this hasn't been updated because it hasn't gone through yet, but we simplified it. So before, the options were either a Bachelor of Science or a 2-year diploma in one of these following health-related fields. But we simplified that to just say the following: either a diploma, a bachelor's, or a master's in any health or science-related field. So basically, this option 2 down here is simplified. It just need a diploma. So it could be a diploma in science, in physio assistant, any sort of 2-year diploma will get you qualified for this program. There's pros and cons to both programs. The diploma program's longer. It's 2.5 years. That means you're in school longer. There's more tuition, whereas the advanced diploma program's short and sweet. So you're in and out in 1 year. The difference is what you graduate with. So with the diploma program, you can graduate as either a general only sonographer. So a general sonographer scans every single body part except for the adult heart. The advanced diploma program, you only do the adult heart. So it just depends on where your interests lie. It also depends on your previous education, because the advanced diploma does require at a minimum a diploma before you apply. But the jobs themselves, both of them have full-time employment, lots of jobs out there. So it doesn't really matter which stream you choose. The pay is the same. The work experience is very similar. So it's more about what you prefer. Sorry, my dog is growling in the background, so I apologize if he starts barking. I kind of mentioned this already. Job opportunities are looking really excellent right now. There's been a slight change in the last few years in that, especially on the cardiac side, it used to really be a Monday to Friday job. Because we're having more graduates, what's happening now is our hours are extended. So you may, as a new grad, when you graduate, you might be expected to work evenings and weekends, or you might luck out and get weekdays. So it's not quite the Monday to Friday job it was 10, 20 years ago. But I'd say almost pretty much every graduate of this program walks right into a full-time employment as soon as they graduate. So career outlook's excellent right now. Here's some things that our graduates have become over the years. So almost everyone will start out in the hospital or clinical setting. So you can work as an echocardiographer. So that's a cardiac sonographer, or a general sonographer. And then once you've had experience, you can work up towards being the department supervisor. There's other jobs out there though. There's teaching, like what Ken and I do. So there's 3 post-secondary institutes here in British Columbia that teach cardiac or teach ultrasound. There's sales opportunities. So working for a big company like GE or Philips, trying to sell their product. So that job involves kind of traveling across Canada, doing sales work. And clinical application specialists are, again, they'll travel, usually they'll have an area such as Western Canada, and they meet with the different departments and teach the staff at that department how to use their newest machines. And then there's also volunteer work if you're looking for something extra, such as being on the Sonography Canada board. There we go. So I'll pass it over to, I think, Darren for how to get into the program.
Thank you, Ken and Heather. Really appreciate all that information. That was great. We'll get to the Q&A just after a little bit of admissions information. Thank you for that. I'll provide an overview of the application and admissions process. For the Cardiac Advanced Diploma, the start date is January 2025 will be the next one. So the application period is, well, the first one was between, it was May 1st to August 31st, and that will be for the next diploma program. And the Diagnostic Medical Sonography start date is September. So that must have just started. Sorry if this should have been updated. Seems a little old. But the application period is from October last year to January this year. No, I'm a year ahead of myself. That's what's happening. Very sorry about that. And there is an applicant residency. Applicants must be residents of British Columbia, and residents of other provinces and international students are not eligible to apply. Filling out the online application is relatively straightforward. Once the application opens for each cycle, you can log in and review the online application. You can work on filling out the application at your own pace, and it does not go to the admissions until you pay the application fee. The date that you apply does not have an impact on your application. You have until the application deadline date to submit your application. And regarding the application process, you will first review all entrance requirements and the application processing dates. You will then upgrade if necessary, and BCIT does offer upgrade courses in many subjects, and program advising can assist you with that. Ensure that when you apply online that you have all your required documents, such as transcripts, ready to scan and upload as PDF files. And bcit.ca/admission will guide you through the step-by-step application process. And once you are ready to apply online, you can visit bcit.ca/apply. And the application fee for domestic students is $90 Canadian. And the application process is online, and therefore you will need to convert your official transcripts for any additional documents that you may be required to PDF files. For the required entrance requirements for the 2-year diploma program is English 12, there's Pre-Calculus 12, Anatomy and Physiology 12, Physics 11 is preferred, or Physics 12 or equivalent, and there is a Casper test and a mandatory applicant questionnaire. There are preferred requirements, and preference will be given to applicants with math, biology, and physics requirements completed within the last 5 years. They have post-secondary education, consistently good grades in previous education, a demonstrated interest in the field, and related volunteer and/or work experience. So a successful applicant profile, you would have 100% have completed at least 2 years of post-secondary education, and over 60% hold a bachelor's degree or higher, or a 2-year health sciences diploma with active certification, with another 25% applying in their final year of a bachelor's degree. 88% have experience working with vulnerable people and some volunteer experience in a healthcare setting, like extended or long-term care facilities, retirement and seniors facilities, or hospital wards. And 100% have paid work experience of some type, typically in a customer-patient service. In the admissions process, admissions will assess the online application within 2 to 4 weeks. Applications that are complete are sent to the department. The department will shortlist and select applicants after the application deadline date, and then admissions sends out acceptance letters. And now moving just away from academics just for a minute, I would like to let you know BCIT is committed to supporting students in a holistic sense. And we want you to succeed not only in academics, but also outside of school. And some student services are available to you as a prospective student, and others will be available to you once you become an enrolled student. And here's some important student supports that I'd like to mention. If you are Indigenous, BCIT's Indigenous Initiatives Department is there for you to ensure a smooth transition into your first year. They offer peer-to-peer mentorship, a welcoming gathering place, and provide clarification on Indigenous funding. And the BCIT's awards, scholarships, and bursaries are listed on Financial Aid and Awards webpage. And I'd like to mention that we have a President's Entrance Award, and the selection is based on academic achievement, but also volunteer and community service. So please contact Financial Aid directly for more information on that. BCIT is committed to providing assistance to students with permanent or temporary disabilities. If you have been accepted to a program and believe you may need accommodation to be successful, I encourage you to connect with our Accessibility Services Department. And BCIT's Student Health Services is a health clinic located on the Burnaby campus, and they provide medical care for current BCIT students all year round. And we also have a counseling and student development department, and they're available to help you enhance your educational performance and maximize your success as a BCIT student. And that is very confidential, so you don't need to worry about anything that is personal or sensitive. Our recreation services promotes, encourages, and enables the practice of physical well-being, and we consider recreation an integral part of campus life, and welcome all students to enjoy their services. And yeah, you might want to check out the new climbing wall they have just installed in the center. Now, for laddering opportunities, once you graduate, you could also get into magnetic resonance imaging. There's an advanced certificate and a Bachelor of Health Science at BCIT. Thompson River University has a Bachelor of Health Science. There's a Health Leadership Advanced Certificate here at BCIT. And that's crazy there, sorry about that. And a Bachelor of Technology and Technology Management here at BCIT. And additionally, please don't hesitate to contact Program Advising if you have a question or you're unsure of something, and they can answer questions regarding entrance requirements, the application process, student resources, success strategies, and program schedules, and many other things. And they're available to assist on specific days by telephone, email, or in person or virtual appointments. And please go to the webpage, bcit.ca/advising, for their most up-to-date contact information and service hours. And I should mention, if your inquiry is time sensitive, please call during the telephone advising hours, and that's the best way to get your questions answered quickly. All of us at Health Sciences would love for you to connect with us on social media, whether you use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, or LinkedIn. We'd love to have you in the conversation. And there is a lot more information to be found on the bcit.ca website. Information about tours of the Burnaby campus, spend a day where you can be a student for a day for a lot of programs. There's lots of more information sessions like this, including big info and info sessions. And of course, bcit.ca/advising to get answers from a program advisor. And that brings us to the questions and answers. And I know Bavina has been working away in the Q&A window. I haven't been able to pay attention. So hopefully everyone is getting their questions answered, and there may be a lot more left. Bavina, unlike the chat, we're not really reading these out and answering them. Is there anything that's outstanding or anything that's directed to Ken or Heather to answer?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. There's one, I'll hit answer live. I heard the Berwyn Institute online courses are a good idea to take before entering this course. Will this help me get into the program?
I can answer that one. There is a Berwyn Introduction to Ultrasound. It's an online course. It's not going to boost you very much. It'll boost you a little bit. So we have when we look at your application, we have a rubric that will grade you on. It'll bump you up a half a mark out of 20. So it might be enough if you're right on the cusp of getting an interview or not. It might help you enough to bump you into getting an interview, but it's not a huge part. We're mostly looking at your education, your volunteer, your work experience, and the answers to the questions on the application. But it can't hurt. And it's also good because it will give you an idea if you like ultrasound, because you'll learn a lot about what ultrasound is.
And then there's a question about volunteer experience versus paid work experience. So would you need to have paid work or health patient care experience before applying, or is this just volunteering? So do you want to speak a little bit about the differences?
Yeah, I can answer that one too. Oh, I was ready to go, Ken.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
By all means.
Yeah, we can both answer too. So we look at both, and they're separate parts of the rubric. So we look at work experience because that shows us if you have communication skills. So if you're a barista at Starbucks, that shows that you can multitask, that you can communicate with customers. So that's one thing we look at. And then the volunteer is a separate category that we also look at. We used to say it should be healthcare related. It's been harder to get that since COVID hit. So we're a little more flexible, but we're also just looking for, again, working with people. So I don't know, Ken, if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
No, that was great. Well said. I think really it's important to have direct contact with people. So whether that's a customer service job or volunteer work, perhaps volunteering in a care home, whatever works, that all that would be essentially a feather in your cap and part of your rounding out your application.
And there was, I guess they're looking for clarification on one of the admission steps. It indicated that applicants were to submit a reference letter. I just want to clarify that a reference letter isn't required for this program. I think that slide might have just had some generic information about the types of documents that typically are submitted by applicants, but for sonography, you don't need a reference letter.
Yes, that's correct. Reference letters are not required.
I think I've answered one question that's come up a few times is there an advantage to have some post-secondary experience when applying to the DMS program?
Yes, absolutely. Certainly, because the coursework is quite intense, and for example, in the very first term, it's a lot different than university. You're taking 7 courses, and so certainly having some post-secondary experience, taking courses at that level would be very beneficial. Just in from a time management perspective and balancing your course load. Heather, is there anything you'd like to add as well?
Typically what we advise applicants in program advising when they come to see us is that it's really beneficial to think about a second option in case admission to sonography doesn't work out. So at least that way you are working towards, while you're accumulating these post-secondary credits, you're working towards the completion of another program or another credential. And once you're offered admission to the sonography program, then you can always make that switch. But having more education is always better than having less in general.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well said.
Here's an interesting one. Is it possible to receive employment in the US after completing the program?
Yes, I can field this one as well. When you're completing the ultrasound program, we're certainly aligned with Sonography Canada, which is the credentialing body for all Canadian accredited schools. However, you do have the option to write your American registry as well. And so many of our students do opt to do that as well. We teach to the same level. So if you would like to work in the United States, you can certainly apply to the ARDMS and challenge their exams.
There's a question in relation to, I think this is the advanced diploma. I'm going to assume it says the bachelor requirement, which I think they might be referring to the diploma requirement. Does it have to be health related, or can it be in any field?
It has to be health or science. So we'll take a Bachelor of Science. I saw Kwantlen actually has a diploma of science, because there's a lot of science in the program. So there's a lot of physics and maths. So we want to make sure you have that background before you start.
In case that question was regarding the diploma, I just want to clarify that there isn't a requirement to have a degree, but there are many successful applicants that have come in with degrees. In terms of the types of courses that are beneficial, usually these are courses focusing on anatomy and physiology, physics, and health science courses.
I saw a question that might help. There's one that might help a lot of people. It's, can I incorporate team and club sports under extracurricular? And definitely yes. Because especially when you're a high level athlete, we know that that takes a lot of time commitment, a lot of dedication, a lot of time management. So yes, definitely put that down. I find a lot of applicants, after talking to them, and why they didn't get in is they don't list all the things they've done. So don't be scared to add things that have taken up a lot of your time, because we're looking for people who are well-rounded.
There was a question regarding transfer credits. Now, I don't know if the question is specific to transferring credits directly into the program, or maybe they want to take courses at Langara or another post-secondary that could be used towards the entrance requirements. So I'll answer about the entrance requirements. I'll send in the Q&A a link to our equivalencies, post-secondary equivalencies site, where you can see what we will accept from other post-secondaries towards the entrance requirements. And then if you have questions about that, you can always connect with us in program advising. And then Heather and Ken, do you want to talk about transferability into like specific courses?
Yeah, I can. The diploma program has some courses, so we'll offer like an course exemption, but only for our auxiliary courses. So communications, what's the other one? Patient care. Like if you already have a nursing background, you have to prove that you have it. You have to give us your marks and the course outline, and then we can waive you. So there's a couple courses. So usually communication, sometimes anatomy and physiology, if you've taken that at university, but none of the sonography courses, like you won't be able to get out of any of those. So there's only really one or two, maybe 3 courses max out of the whole program that you could possibly kind of get waived if you've taken them somewhere else.
And I just want to add that if you are granted credit course exemptions for courses within the program, your tuition and the duration of the program will still remain the same. That is not going to change.
There's another question that'll help lots of people here. Can I apply for both programs at the same time and then decide? Yes and no. The reason is they start at different times, but it actually will work out to your advantage. So the diploma program, the application period is open right now and closes in January. You won't find out until you get in until about March. If you don't get in, the application for the cardiac advanced diploma opens 2 months later. So then you can reapply for the cardiac advanced diploma program. So we highly encourage those who don't get into one program to try for the other one. Cardiac advanced diploma program has less applicants, so it's a little bit easier to get into. The diploma program is quite competitive. So I highly recommend, if you have any sort of diploma or higher, look into that cardiac advanced diploma program.
There's a question about how many hours of volunteer experience is recommended.
If you give me a few minutes, I'll look that up, because I know we recently just created some guidelines on that, but I forget, but I'll come back to that in a few minutes.
I could perhaps comment on that a little bit. We don't, it's probably better that you're volunteering consistently over a period of time. It's, certainly we just want to see that you are volunteering over, several years, not that you've just decided I'm going to volunteer, 2 weeks before I submit my application, that this is something that you've undertaken and you have purpose to, you've decided to volunteer, and this is something that you want to do, and showing essentially consistency over a period of time. And Heather can come back with total numbers.
While Heather's looking that up, there's a question that's come up a few times in regards to what types of documents to submit. So we accept PDFs of official transcripts. So your final grades need to be on your official transcripts. So those could be your official high school transcripts. Those could be your official post-secondary transcript, or they could be your final high school report card as well.
But I found the answer. So again, we have like a marking rubric that we'll use to determine who's going to get an interview. You'll get the maximum points there at about 100 hours or more of volunteer work. And then there's a scale between those numbers. But again, like Ken said, we're looking for someone who's kind of done something over a period of time, not just right before applying for the program.
Ken or Heather, is it better to get a health science diploma then continue for a degree if you don't get accepted into they're saying bachelor's program, but I think they mean the diploma?
Yeah, we usually recommend, because unfortunately it sometimes takes people 1 or 2 or even 3 tries to get into the program. So in the meantime, I highly recommend you start working towards something, taking courses at college or university, because for 2 reasons: in case you don't ever get in, but also because that'll make your application stronger for the next year. So I would start working towards some sort of science diploma, and that'll make your application stronger.
There's a question again about volunteer experience, and is direct entry from high school available? So it's not possible to apply directly from high school simply because we need to see final grades on your official transcripts. And when you receive final grades on your official transcripts, that timeline doesn't align with our application window. So essentially, if you're currently in grade 12 and you're trying to figure out when can I apply, you would not be able to apply for the September 2024 intake because you're not going to have final grades. You likely won't have final grades in the required entrance courses before January the 5th. If you do, that's great, but keep in mind that the admission is highly competitive. So you likely won't be as strong as a candidate as the other applicants. So if you're currently in high school, you're finishing high school in June 2024, you'll be submitting an application likely in October 2024, and that'll be for the September 2025 intake.
Somebody asked, can you address the slide that said 100% of successful applicants are accepted? I don't know if there was a slide that said that, because that's not true. I'm not sure what slide that was.
Yeah, I think it's the slide that says 100% of successful applicants had post-secondary. I think that's probably what it said. Okay. 100% of accepted applicants had post-secondary. There must have been something like that.
Yeah, and I've been here 10 years. I've had 2 students who came straight from high school. So I think
we just passed it. Oh,
yeah. But most people, I think that just means most people, you don't have to have a degree, but most people have at least 1 year experience under their belt. Yeah, so this is saying 100% have completed at least 2 years. I would maybe change that honestly to 90%. But it just means that because we're so competitive, most people have started university or college and have some sort of post-secondary before they get in. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's very hard straight out of high school.
And then there's a question asking what programs at BCIT would be beneficial to take before applying to sonography. Is there a health science or diploma program at BCIT, or do we need to go elsewhere? I can answer part of that question, and then maybe Heather and Ken, you can chime in. We don't really have a general health science diploma program that you could do at BCIT. It's possible to do maybe one of the other health science programs like radiography, MRI, nuclear medicine, but then you'd probably want to do the advanced diploma. You wouldn't be applying to the regular sonography diploma. Heather, Ken, is there something more you want to add?
I don't think so. Like, I don't know of any BCIT programs. So I would say any post-secondary. I know usually what our applicants use the BCIT for is upgrading in case they aren't happy with their high school marks. But I would say just any post-secondary, any sort of science related post-secondary.
Here's an interesting one. Are you at a disadvantage if you've been out of school for 10 years?
I don't think so. I think certainly you have lived experience, and probably that can be an asset to your application as well too. We have a number of mature students that have entered our program and have been successful. And so certainly bringing work experience and lived experience, it can be a real asset.
And what is your take on upgrading to meet the preferred recency requirement of having the requirements completed within 5 years?
I think that would be an asset that would certainly make the program easier for you, certainly because you have current knowledge and refreshed your knowledge, so to speak. So certainly having completed recent coursework, especially math, physics, and biology, those are certainly areas where that can be very helpful. The program is very intense, and certainly anything that you can get under your belt in order to help you be successful in the program, I think would be very good.
I was just typing an answer, but I can say it out loud here. Somebody asked, we kind of talked about it already. Does BCIT offer a health diploma or a bachelor's, or should we go to a different school, and what school is better than the other, sort of thing? So we don't have like a bachelor's or a diploma program. And honestly, all schools are the same here. So we don't treat one school better than the other. We just look at your grades and did you finish, that sort of thing, or how many courses do you have? So I wouldn't worry about, what's the name of your school is. I would look at what you're interested in, what's close, what's convenient for you, and just start working towards, getting some education behind you. Someone asked, is it fine if you don't have a 2-year diploma, but you have a few post-secondary classes? So that's fine for the diploma program. So you can still apply for the diploma program because technically all you need is high school. And just on our rubric, you'll get more points the more, more years of education you have. So don't be afraid to apply if you don't have a lot of post-secondary. For the advanced diploma program, you have to have completed the diploma. Another one, how many applicants are there? Typically for our diploma program, 200 for 36 spots. And then for our, I think Ken's typing the answer. And then for our advanced diploma program, we have less because the prereqs are a bit higher. We have less applicants. So last year we had 16 applicants for 12 spots. So if you really, really want into sonography and you're having troubles getting into the diploma program, that's a great way to get in, is through the advanced diploma program. Somebody's asking, is there a way to go from radiology to sonography or vice versa? Kind of. So we have had students transfer, but you still have to do the official process. So we've had students who are, year 2 of radiology or MRAD, but they still have to apply and interview and compete against everyone else. It doesn't guarantee you a spot. Radiation therapy is a very different job from radiography because radiation therapy is treating cancer patients, whereas the radiography program is the x-rays, so very different type. But because we're competitive, it doesn't matter. You still have to compete the same way everyone else does. Sorry, we're just reading these as we go. Do we accept work experience and volunteer experience outside of Canada? Definitely. It doesn't matter where your work experience was. One thing we do look at is recency. So if there's been a 10-year break since you worked, that's something we'll consider. But yeah, it doesn't matter where your work or volunteer was done. Another similar question, do you have to have both volunteer and paid work? Nope, it just helps it boosts your application, because paid work and volunteer work are separate line items on the rubric. And so you'll score higher on the application if you have some volunteer work, but it doesn't mean you can't apply. So if, it just boosts your score up a little bit.
There's a question about the anatomy and physiology 12 requirement and versus taking the challenge exam or doing the upgrading course, which is better to do. The challenge exam is testing you on the anatomy and physiology curriculum, the grade 12 curriculum. So if you're not already proficient in that and you have to spend time studying and preparing for it, you might as well take the upgrading course, because that's going to help you to do that. And you'll have someone that's guiding you through the material. So you'll probably do better in the material and have a better grade at the end than in the challenge exam. We typically recommend the challenge exams to individuals who already have completed the anatomy and physiology 12. They have the minimum required grade, and really what they want to do is just prove recency. So say they've taken it more than 5 years ago, but they've maintained recency in those particular learning outcomes through the work that they've done or through other courses that they've taken. And they know they're confident in the material, or maybe they were a practicing physician or in any kind of health field that required anatomy, to be proficient in anatomy and physiology in another country, and they don't want to take the course, but they know that they're very proficient. That's another, the challenge exam is something that's maybe more suitable for them as well. Are many marks lost on the application if courses aren't taken within 5 years?
No, that's more of an admissions thing. So basically, admissions will go through your application to make sure you meet minimum requirements. And then, so the stuff that we get, we assume all the minimum requirements have been met. And then we just look at grades, volunteer work experience. We don't look at recency at that point. So that's more of, will admissions accept you? And once they have, then it doesn't matter for us.
So then a follow-up similar type of questions: if you meet the requirements, have post-secondary experience, do you still recommend upgrading marks if it has been more than 5 years?
Tough one.
It really depends.
Yeah. If it's been 20 years since you've done any schooling, it might be really hard, just because it's been a while since you've been in that environment. But it depends. If you're in a career where you're teaching other people, maybe it's not required. So I think it depends on the person. I don't know if Bavina, you were going to say something too.
Yeah, it depends on an overall application. I mean, if they've got other post-secondary and they've got a degree or diploma, they could have been from within Canada or another country. They could have been working in a healthcare field, again, practicing some of those fundamental skills that are part of the entrance requirements. And if that is if that is clear based on the application, then you don't necessarily need to do the upgrading. But I would think that if it looked like there were gaps in education or having that foundation, then you might want to consider upgrading. I think we're almost at the end here with the questions.
Yeah, thank you. You guys are doing amazing. We have gone a few minutes over, but I'm hoping everyone can get their questions answered. So thank you for doing such an awesome job.
I know Ken's typing out that answer, but maybe it's worth everyone hearing. The last part of that: is it possible to work during this program? It's intense. The program's very hard. It's often harder than university, simply because you're taking a lot of courses. Our students, a lot of them do work part-time, but you would really want a flexible job that, if you're really stressed, you have a lot going on, that you don't have to pick up shifts on certain days. I understand that students need money. So yeah, a lot of our students are working part-time. So it's possible, but I would keep it limited how much you're working. And the passing grade is 65%. So that's our minimum standard. Ken's still typing away. There he goes.
I think there were some questions that some participants posted in the chat. One of them is, and this may have already been answered, for the diploma program, are you able to do your entire final year clinical on Vancouver Island?
Yeah, I typed that one out. No, it's not. We try our best to put people as close to their home. So, we get a lot of people from the Okanagan. So usually they'll do their first rotation here in the Lower Mainland. And then we'll try to finish up their program closer to home. But there is a school on the island. They get priority for all the seats over there for clinical. So it's difficult for us. There's just not enough seats in the clinical environment to do that many rotations on the island. So we'll try to get you as close to home, but we can't guarantee it. And on that kind of topic, for those of you from the Lower Mainland, again, there's not enough seats in the Lower Mainland for clinical spots. So every student's told to expect one out of town. They're 6 weeks long. We will ask your preference. So if you've got family or friends in another part of the province, we'll try to get you close to that because we know housing's expensive, but I would expect an out of town. I think Ken might have mentioned that earlier.
And then there's one other question in the chat, and this may have already been answered. So does this mean we cannot apply for the cardiac advanced diploma until after we receive our bachelor's degree, not during our last term of completion?
So I don't know if admissions will agree with me, but we have done this before because we do have lower numbers on our advanced diploma program, and we want to ensure we fill all our seats. We've had students that were about to graduate within the next month, but didn't have their final marks. And so we got permission for them to apply, and it was conditional on their final grades. So there was an understanding there that if they didn't pass their final term, their application would be discarded. So we have done that in the past. And our program advisor or our admissions officer, allowed that. So I would say apply if you're just a month or two away from graduating. Apply, and if you have problems, ask to have your application forwarded to Ken or myself, and we'll review it. Somebody asked about the Gulf Islands. No, we don't have any hospitals on the Salt Spring Island. We have a rotation on the Sunshine Coast, but nothing in the Gulf Islands.
That is awesome. Thank you, Heather, Ken, and Bhavina for all that information. I'm just gonna, because Mandy just got in a little late here, we can answer that one question and then we're gonna wrap this up. Is it better to get a diploma or a bachelor's in terms of acceptance? Oh, I guess we're gonna keep coming in.
You're gonna get more and more. I don't think it matters, to be honest. Diploma, bachelor's, what you have for the diploma program or even the advanced diploma program, it's just a very, very small part of it. We're looking for well-rounded people. We're looking for volunteer work, for your answers to the questionnaires. The difference between the diploma and bachelor's is very small. So I would do what's right for you, because we also can't guarantee you're going to get into the program even after trying for 2 or 3 years. So I would work towards something that, if you don't get in, is useful for your life.
Okay, excellent. Okay, right now there's no open questions. I'm going to have to shut it down for tonight. That was a lot of excellent Q&A. That's probably one of the best ones we've seen. I just want to remind everyone that a copy of the slide presentation and a link to the info session video recording will be sent out to all registrants in a week or two. We'll get that out as fast as we can. I just have to give a little bit of room there. And I definitely want to thank you all for being with us today, and we wish you all the best in your future in health sciences. And I hope you have a great evening, and hopefully we'll see and talk to you soon. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight, and thank you everyone for participating. We'll see you all later.